Good day, everyone. Welcome back to another video. Today, Armen, no, we're not going to say that. Welcome back to another video. Today, we've got a 20-minute chat with Armen Hammer that is part of a longer conversation that if you join the Patreon right now, you will get access to. We spoke with over an hour because that's what happens with Armen and I. We just can't stop chatting. So yeah, that's what happens. I want to thank a couple of Patreons because some genius said you could do that with this whiteboard behind you. So I'm going to start doing that. I did it the other day, and I'm doing it again today. On this side, we've got blank and blank. That's someone that does not want a shout out. So thanks, blank and blank, along with Crystal D and Marissa B. On this side, we've got Andrew G. That arrow means he bumped it, which you can always do. You're like, I'm giving this much. You know what? I'm going to give more. Kevin, a.k.a. Bubbles, and Josh R. Thank you so much for contributing. What does contributing get you? Well, for as little as $2 a month, you get everything that we have in there. That's really what the Patreon does, is it just opens up everything. It opens up the vault to everything we've ever put on there, which is sometimes Patreon-only stuff, oftentimes early access, and at little as the $2 level, that's what you get. Now, so why should I give any more then? Well, because you want to support content creators like myself. It's a tough biz, right? Nobody's making me do it, but hey, I love doing it. And a way for me to get supported is A, advertisers, and B, you guys. And it's always great to support things you love. So support your local business owner. This is a way for you to support your local business owner. I just might not live near you, but this is how you can do it. So Patreon links below. Go ahead and hit that. It'll feel good, and it will mean a lot to me. We have special stuff going on. We have a Secret Santa. We had fantasy football. That actually didn't quite work. We'll definitely have fantasy football next year. Other fun things throughout the year. So that's what the Patreon train does. Let's get to this chat where I was asking if he follows the content of Tia, Clare, Toomey. Oh, here we go.
I think Shane and Tia are really funny together. And so I like to watch them interact. Like when they're driving and just like talking to shit to each other is hilarious to me. I love that. So I think they're really cute together, which is why I occasionally watch them. But no, I didn't watch that video. I'll tell you what I told my wife, which is if Tia wanted to,
Swing Bay.
I could see Tia winning the games next year, potentially even winning games in 2022 and still going to the Winter Olympics in 2022. And that would probably cement her as like the most impressive athlete of all time, in my opinion. Like bar any sport.
You think it's possible? Ridiculous. You think it's possible to train for both at the same time?
She went to the Olympics in weightlifting and won the CrossFit Games that same year. And those events were just a few weeks apart. So
I feel like weightlifting on its own closer than just just focusing on whatever you need to focus on for the bobsled.
I think you don't know what you need to focus on for bobsled. I feel like she actually could. I think bobsled, I'm not going to say it has more carryover than weightlifting, but that's what bobsled is. Bobsled training is like, not counting the actual, implement of like using a bobsled, but bobsled training, the physical aspect of it is mostly strength and explosiveness training, which she has in spades. So getting stronger and more explosive and faster and a better sprinter, that's just going to make her, more dominant in those events.
Remember how I had a bet? I said, hey, let's put a line on it. Do we think the odds of one of them winning, both of them winning, blah, blah, blah? Remember that? And I would have lost.
I do remember that.
I would have lost big time because they both won by a lot. What do you think happens first? Matt retires from CrossFit or Matt gets beat by somebody?
Matt will retire before he gets beat.
Okay. And yeah. if you were gonna put on your prediction hat, how many more years before he's like, okay, I'm the best ever, let me step down and do something else?
He's the best ever already. I don't think there's any
right, but he has to decide, and there's nothing else left to do here. Like I've got to get going.
I think we have at least one more year of him.
Okay.
Because imagine, let's say, if he goes 2021, his 4 of his 6 wins, the last 4 of his 6 wins would have been in 4 completely different seasons. There's no way of arguing it. Like 2018, 2019, 2020, and 2021 are all completely different seasonal structures. There's no way of arguing it. Matt is the best CrossFitter of all time. Like, it just is what it is. I mean, Tia, you could make an argument maybe that Tia is better than him, maybe. But that's a really rough one to make. It's going to be difficult to make that argument.
Sure is.
Yeah. You like that? You like that hot take? Mat Fraser's the best CrossFitter of all time?
I was just being a bad interviewer and going, yep, sure is.
Jamie, pull that up.
Armen Hammer.
Mappy Davis.
You texted me after I texted you. And by the way, Josh, if you're listening, Josh gets mad because sometimes I'll text him and be like, let's talk right now. And he's like, I can't talk right now. I'm doing other things. That's how I am with Armen too. And I know Armen has a whole other life outside of me. And I just go, hey, it's early. I know you're not even up yet. When you see this, let me know. Can we talk today, talk tomorrow, whatever, blah, blah, blah. You said, hey, how about these Spartan Games? And I was like, Armen's probably not even watching. I ask you stuff like that all the time. Like, hey, did you hear all these CrossFitters are doing this Spartan thing? You're like, I don't give a fuck. And nobody gives a fuck. So, and then like you said, I'm watching them now. And then like, I think 20 minutes later, you said I'm done. So I'm assuming you fast forwarded through a good bit of the program.
No, I texted you that I was watching it after I'd already finished like the first episode and half of the second episode.
Oh, okay, good. So we've had a lot of opinions over here in OCR land. I did see, I actually receive the morning chalk up now every morning. Who knew? Oh my God. Those guys are working hard.
That is a real business. What you and I do is like, yeah, it's legit, but what they do is a real business.
Well, listen, I don't know.
He has like an actual executive team.
I don't know what your nut is like, but I'm over here just trying to feed these motherfuckers. And that's, by the way, like, honestly, what I've come to when people are like, wow, what have you done during COVID? And I'm like, the same exact thing I've done for 8 years, pull it out of my ass, or even more. Like when I had a staffing company, this is where it's a drinking game. When Matt mentions he has a staffing company, drink everybody. When I started my first business in 2008 or whatever it is, like, this is just how I do life. Like, make it up as I go, figure it out along the way, take 8 years to have a schedule in podcast. You know what I mean? So honestly, COVID in many ways is not like any other year. Manishtana halayla hazeh, we say. Do you know what that means?
I don't. Tell me.
It means, why is this night different than all other nights? We say that during Passover. It's called the 4 questions. Jews, raise up.
That's
Jews.
Beautiful.
You're welcome. So
the chosen people are wonderful.
We really are.
I love the Jewish culture. So, and part of it I think is like, I'm Armenian. There's like a lot of similarities there. Like, Armenians are like super Christian, but it's a different thing. Like, it's not a religious thing. I mean, culturally, I feel a kinship. I feel a kinship with the chosen people.
Yeah. We're a dark people. We're a hairy people. We're misunderstood people.
Yes, those are all correct. So we're talking about morning chalk up.
Right.
You're saying you get the morning chalk up now.
So I knew of the morning chalk up, and I'm aware of Justin and their team, and seen them on last year's games, and started actually subscribe to that fucking thing. And oh my God, is it a jam-packed, they have entire sections that are sponsored. I'm like, I need some of this. This is what I need going on.
Yeah, they're doing it right. They're doing it right. You should be proud of yourself being able to feed your family with your work, but it's a
trust
different
me,
world, man.
No, I am. I'm very proud of myself when I'm not busy. Like, I can't take too many W's because, as my buddy Gary Vee says, because there's just too much to do. Like, you can't sit there and go, yay, I did this thing. You know what I mean? Because it's like, well, tomorrow I got to wake up and feed my family again. But I do I do something that I really like doing, which is talking to you and talking to people and going to races when there is ones and blah, blah, blah. But anyhow, what is it? The morning chalk up, blah, blah, blah.
Spartan.
Spartan.
Spartan
Oh,
Games.
yeah. So the reason I saw it is because Samantha Briggs and what's her name? Damn it.
Christy O'Connell.
Crystal O'Connell Ermos are there. And so the CrossFit Games has been, and Barbend, I think, threw something up like, hey, these guys are there and what's happening? So wow, did I go a long way of saying we've had lots of conversations. I'm very curious your personal feelings. And if you, because I said, like, when you guys came to the Tahoe thing, I was like, does anybody care that the Tahoe thing last year when you had Chandler and
Jacob was there, right?
Jacob, and you're like, not really. And I asked if anybody cared about TMX, even though Jacob and P. Vellner were there. And you're like, no, not really. So do you care? Does anybody in CrossFit care about the Spartan Games?
I think some people in CrossFit care about the Spartan Games. I I think part of the reason why they care is because Spartan and High Rocks and CrossFit are apparently now all competing for the ability to like crown the fittest human beings, right? So like CrossFit owns the trademark for fittest on earth, but High Rocks now has the world champion of fitness. And Spartan Games, they made it really clear that they're just trying to find the fittest human being or whatever, was like their tagline during those shows. So I think it overlaps, and CrossFit fans are going to be drawn in by this idea that a lot of people in the CrossFit space have always wanted to see, which was what happens if you bring a bunch of different like technical specialists together to do a bunch of different types of things. But yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's going to be, I don't know. It's hard. It's really hard to say. It's really hard to say whether it's going to be like a big mover and shaker, because based off the couple episodes that I've seen so far, like the product, the entertainment product is not quite there. The competition seems okay. It's pretty impressive what they're asking them to do. Like that's some tough events, like 45-minute swim for laps, the mountain biking thing. Those are some tough events. And there's that one female competitor who's like, man, they just keep doing these heavy events. And I was like, what heavy event? They've had you like lift one rock, like what's the other heavy thing they've had you do? But I guess it makes sense if you're like an endurance athlete or if you're like a Spartan athlete, just doing a 15-minute workout with those like weighted cylinders is like, what are you talking about? I don't have to do this for 3 hours. How am I going to use any of my capacity to do it? You want me to row only 500 meters? Like, I understand that's like a brain busting amount of sprinting for somebody in that position. So it's just, yeah, it seems like a really challenging and like brutal weekend so far of events, but the entertainment product of it's going to be much better if they do it ever again.
Have you ever thrown a bucket at someone?
No, I have not ever thrown a bucket at someone. I don't think I've ever lost it on another person during competition like that. But I think that if I did, I would probably be a little bit more effective. So, I mean, it just seems Hunter is so good at getting under people's skin. Like, I love the guy. He's wacky. He's out there. He's so fit. And he's so good at getting under people's skin. He just found the perfect way of like lighting that guy's life on fire with a half second of effort. And yeah, I don't know. He also, I think so here's what I mean by like the entertainment aspect of it is not quite there yet, right? Hunter clearly came in there, was like, I don't really care to be like the good guy, so I'll be the heel. That's fine. I'll be the heel. but then they never lean into Hunter being the heel. Like at one point during the tug of war, I think every single competitor came up to Hunter's competition, the NFL player, and they were like giving him tips on how to beat Hunter. And then like at the end of the bike race, the American Ninja Warrior guy like edged out Hunter, and they're like, "Who cares how you did? You beat Hunter." And I was like, "Why aren't you making this a storyline? Like, make Hunter the bad guy. You need, like, that's fine. He's there for it. He's 100% ready and willing to be the bad guy. Like, let him be the bad guy, and then you have like an actual, because is it Ryan Atkins that's just the most gentle soul on the face of the planet? Like, I don't know who that guy is. He's very impressive. Is he competitive? I don't understand. Like, he's like, I just want everyone to do their best. Isn't that what it's all about? And I was like, you're amazing. Like, what are you? Are you kidding me? Like, Hunter's out there talking so much shit, and Ryan's over there like, you can make a perfect like head to head, and it's so clear that no one else stands a chance. Like, it's one of those two guys. So I don't know. There's just like little like storytelling things that I think they could have really cleaned up and made it into a much more entertaining product.
But to me, that was when 7 people go up to Kurt and say, "This is how you beat Hunter." That is Hunter's, like, clearly no one wants to help Hunter. They want to see Hunter go down. Like that was the story. I don't know what you mean. What could have they done more? Drawn horns on his head? Like what would you expect?
I think it's about structuring like the voiceover. It's about structuring the little interviews that they have as like telling the story, and they could have done it all in post with like the event director or whoever that guy is. Like, they could have had him basically telling the story of like, oh yeah, man, I was so surprised. Like, we finally got through the bracket, and it was Hunter versus the NFL guy, and I was expecting there to be some fireworks, but I wasn't expecting every single one of the athletes, male and female, to go and offer their help to the NFL competitor just to beat Hunter. Like, all you have to do is make little highlights like that. It's like 5 seconds here, 10 seconds here, and suddenly the storyline becomes much more crystal clear. Whereas, like, I think the second episode like lost the plot. It was 45 minutes long. It was just like way too much of the same thing happening over and over again. It was yeah, I don't know. I think they could as like an entertainment product, they can really tighten it up. Like, they can really turn it into something much more entertaining. But as like a competition, it seems pretty savage. I don't know.
So I'll give you a little bit of education on Ryan Atkins. Ryan Atkins, we have this 24-hour event called World's Toughest Mudder, and he won it a couple times as an individual. Then they started putting more money in the teams. So he did it as a team with a 2-man, and then a team as a 4-man, then a co-ed team with his wife. He's the most dominant endurance athlete we have in obstacle racing.
Badass.
He also shows up to the regular 5-mile obstacle races and wins those 2. And when he doesn't win, he's in the top 3. So
it's pretty impressive.
He's a freak of nature. He would have been in the finals against Hunter that first TMX year, but he's fucking slipped on the wall, some stupid thing. Like, he's also, when I've been a lot of these races, and he's the only one lying on the ground afterwards, because that's what he gives every fucking time. He's that guy, right? He also like, when he's interviewed, like, you watched everybody, that was the hardest bike race ever. What does Ryan say? That was pretty fun. I like those trails. You know what I mean? Like, that's
yeah. That was I dude, like I said, I don't know who
so
that guy is. I've never seen him before, and he's fantastic.
Right. So we know Hunter's a freak of nature, but in a different way. Ryan Atkins is like, no one has that range. Hunter can't run for 24 hours and win. He would have to spend a year getting that training, whereas Ryan kind of does both. Like, he last year, he's interestingly enough finished second in the Spartan World Championship, which is their biggest race every year. He's finished second, I think, 5 times. And this was like literally a week or 2 weeks after he got back from, he did that Amazon thing that everybody was watching earlier this year. I don't know if you caught that at all. That Amazon Eco Challenge was like 8 days in the jungle. Like he came in second in that, and then shows up like most people are just like laying on a couch for a month. He's ridiculous. So yes, we all knew going into it, one of those two was going to take it. But it's an interesting question though, Armen, because the way Ryan actually explained it is there wasn't enough strength athletes between those two, and there's a lot of endurance athletes between those two. A lot of people could swim, could run, could bike. Even though they're not at that level, they could at least compete. And in strength, it was Hunter and the NFL guy. But even the NFL guy isn't going to do as well in high rocks because it's not just strength. It's, you know what I mean? So that was his argument. And then, so that becomes the question is like, how do you find, right? Like it's, if you're a 10 in endurance and a 0 in strength, and the other people are 10 in strength and 0 in endurance, you're not really finding the fittest.
No, then it's like the order of the events and the people who show up, and there's a lot of external factors there. Like basically you want to be able to say that your competition's structure is such that it accounts for that type of noise, so that only at the end of the day you have signal. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, overall, it's been like pretty good to watch it. The first episode I thought was much better than the second episode. Like, yeah, overall it's been good. I think you're right. The idea of like there isn't enough of a balanced field to compete, that there would be people who middle between Ryan and Hunter on like strength stuff. If like Ryan is even anywhere near him on strength stuff, it's like, oh, he has no chance because he's going to smash him at anything that's long and endurancey. And there's going to be 5 people between them in those events. And then Hunter's going to beat him on anything that's strong or fast, but there's only going to be 3 people between them in those events. And that is always going to go in favor of the person who can middle more people.
All to the righty. As I said, Patreon right now, $20. Sorry, $2 a month gets you in, and we'll get you this entire interview. We spoke with well over an hour, as I said. We do podcasts 3 times a week. If you haven't been following us, if you're just finding this channel, click links below for that. And thanks so much for watching. Comment below anything you've seen so far about Spartan Games stuff and or CrossFit stuff, or just to let me know you're enjoying this content. Love ya. Miss you. Mean it. I've got to run.